I'm gonna teach you how to sound like this on Bandlab.
You can buy this preset, link in the description or the pinned comment, yeah. Comment, yeah.
Like it says in the song, if you want to download this vocal preset, you can do so by clicking the first link in the description or the pinned comment. But anyway, let's get to the video. So before we actually get to the vocal effects used, it is important to mention that one very key thing that I definitely recommend you do is double track your vocals. And for the newbies that don't know what that means, essentially that is literally just recording the vocal melody twice, or really as many times as you want. This allows you to have a sort of depth to your vocals that you can't really reach by only having one. This is very common in pop punk, so I definitely recommend you do it like I do in this video. So while not necessary, I do think it's important to mention if you want to add auto-tune, the correct settings I feel like are required. So essentially, I really just put it at the classic auto-tune setting and I put it at about 40. I don't think it's that much. It kind of just sort of steers you in the right direction slightly while still retaining a natural tone in your vocals. Obviously, we don't want like a Travis Scott sort of effect going on. Now on to the actual effects. So the first thing I added was a compressor. I used their DG compressor one. And for the attack and release, I really wanted a really short attack with a decently long release. So I put it at literally 1 millisecond for attack and release at about 400 milliseconds. Then when it comes to threshold and ratio, this really depends on how hot you record your vocals. Maybe it's a little more in the distance and you don't need to raise it that high. But for me, I put it at -7 decibels for the threshold. And I put a ratio at about 10:1, which compresses it quite a bit, I feel like, which is kind of what I want for this vocal. Then I added a second compressor, the compounder, which is a combination of the compressor and the expander. But I really didn't even use it for the compressor or the expander. I used it exclusively for the bottom section, which is the mode. And I turned on the broken speaker mode for this effect. It's very typical for pop punk, obviously in the punk spirit, to have a bit of a lo-fi, rough characteristic to it. And with this broken speaker effect, it really kind of sets that tone for your vocals. You'll notice that the vocals have a bit more of a rough character, which I think works for the pop punk aesthetic. Then I added a de-esser, essentially just trying to find the frequency where I hear the S the loudest, which in this instance was around 11,000 hertz. And then I put the threshold at about -19 decibels. Then I finally added an EQ. The main things were I lowered the lows very slightly, only at about -1 decibel. We'll get to the mids in a second. I boosted the highs to about 2.6, but the most important part is what we're gonna do with the mids. So essentially what I did, this is a very important thing that I recommend all of you do, but what I did is I cranked the mid very high, and then while the track was playing, I went to the mid sweep and I started moving it around the frequency range. And the goal with this is to find the ugliest resonance in your vocals. So as you can see, I'm doing it right now.
You can buy this preset, link in the description or the pinned comment, yeah. Comment, yeah.
And I decided that the ugliest frequencies were at around 640 hertz. So after that, I went to the mids and I dropped it to about -3, -4 decibels. This is very good because especially in the low mid sections of your voice, there is typically a lot of really ugly resonance, a lot of muddiness, which really kind of ruins the song. So it doesn't even matter if you're doing it for pop punk or for R&B, trap, whatever. I highly recommend you do it regardless. And finally, I added a reverb. I wanted to use a really cheap, like I said, rough sounding reverb, and the spring reverb is perfect for that. But I really didn't add too much, and that's essentially how you get pop punk vocals on Bandlab. If this video has been helpful, please consider subscribing, leaving a like, and commenting what other videos you want me to do. Again, if you want to download the preset, the link is in the description or in the pinned comment. Thank you very much, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.